All right, so we're going to be listening to Dr. Grace. Dr. Grace is from the University of Ebonyi State University of Abakaliki in Nigeria, and she's a great scholar. Traveled all the way from Nigeria, Abakaliki. She's been doing a lot of research in her field. So it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Grace. At the end of her presentation, then Knox, you will present. I'm going to invite you. Dr. Grace, please come up.
So our topic is on traditional society and conflict resolution in Nigeria, an appraisal of Igbo traditional method of conflict resolution. Generally, conflicts are accepted as inevitable phenomenon in human endeavor because human beings naturally are competitive in nature, and it is this competition that generates conflict most times, especially when things or resources are not being shared equally. That inequality gives rise to grudges, which degenerates into conflict. Now, a little about the Igbo. Igbos are the people of the eastern part of Nigeria, predominantly Igbo-speaking part of the country. And this paper does an appraisal of the traditional method of conflict resolution, Igbo traditional method of conflict resolution, and it is the position of this paper that the Igbo traditional method of conflict resolution is more result-oriented than the Western method of litigation. As I move on, you will get to know why I said that. Then the paper also considers several methods of traditional conflict resolution, which include, but not limited to, the following: mediation, oath-taking, covenant, adjudication, reconciliation, cross-examination, negotiation, sanction, and so on. These are methods of Igbo methods of traditional conflict resolution, and we argue that these methods are more result-oriented than the Western method of litigation. We started by looking at the types of conflicts we find in the Igbo traditional setting, and they are as follows. One, you have interpersonal conflict. That is the conflict that emanates among two different individuals. That is interpersonal. Interfamily conflict is the conflict between one family and another. Intrafamily conflict, this is the conflict between members of the same family, which could be between brothers and sisters, brother and brother, husband and wife, members of the same family. Then you have inter-community conflict. It's also a conflict between one community and the other, and intra-community conflict, which is the conflict between members of the same community. It could be between one family and another of the same community. And we categorize these types of conflict because we are dealing with a traditional society. Then we also looked at some common causes of conflict in Igbo traditional society. Because of the traditional setting, there are major things that causes conflict in the traditional society, and some of them are as follows. Land is a major cause of conflict in Igbo traditional society. And then boundary can cause conflict between one community and another, and between one individual and another. And this land and boundary is because the Igbos are predominantly farmers, and they do a lot on land, and that land is very important to them. Then we also have marriage, trade, opinion, interest, and so on. Specifically, Ikenga stated that some common causes of inter-community conflicts are land boundary. I think I've said that because they are mainly farmer. The land means a lot to them, and whenever anyone tries to encroach on another man's land, it's a very big offense, and no one wants to surrender on such encroachment. Then we looked at the Igbo traditional agents / institutions of conflict resolution. In Igbo society, the traditional institutions have the major social and political responsibility of settling conflict. There are agents that are responsible for settling of this conflict. And I must let you know that in Igbo society, it's being structured in a way that everybody is involved in conflict resolution, male, female, old, and young. Everyone has a place the person falls as far as conflict resolution is concerned. No one is left out in the process of conflict resolution. So we looked at the following agents. First of all, Council of Elders, known as Amala. This is an assembly of elderly men made up of representatives of various clans and kindreds. They form the Amala, that is the Elders Council. They are usually, what happened? Okay. They are usually elders in the extended family. They settle disputes between individuals and families within the community. Their main role is usually the role of mediation. They mediate between disputants. And these elders, when they pass a judgment, you must accept it because they are elders known for truth. Then the next group is the age grades, predominantly made up of young men and women. And these age grades, we call them in Igbo land, we call them Ndi Ogbo or Oke. They are made up of youths from the same village, both male and female. The next one is daughters of the land, the Omuada, the daughters of the land, and that's where I fall in. These daughters of the land are females born inside, within the village, whether married outside or within the family or within the village. But there must, one thing that makes you an Ada is when you are born inside a particular village. It doesn't matter where you are married to. And these Umuada are known. They specialize in settling marriage disputes. When there is a marriage dispute, the Umuada come in to settle it, and they are highly respected group of ladies. Then the one is I've looked at the Umuada married women, also Ndinyum. These married women are made up of women married in a particular community, either from within the village or from outside the village. But once you are married in a village, you belong to the married women, which we call Ndinyum. Then the next one is the oracle. We call it Arosi or Abala. This is depicted in carved wood, stones, rivers, trees, and so on. And human beings believed to have supernatural powers are often regarded as the mouthpiece of this oracle. Human beings believed to have supernatural power. They are the mouthpiece of this oracle, meaning that when they speak, it is assumed that the oracle is speaking through them. And this oracle is usually the last resort in conflict resolution when a conflict becomes so tough that either the elders, the married women, the daughters of the land, if it goes beyond them, then they take it to the oracle. And when the oracle speaks, no one argues. Then we look at the Igbo tradition. We have looked at the agents of conflict resolution. We will be looking at the methods these agents use in settling conflicts. And some of those methods include adjudication. It involves dialogue, fair hearing, and cross-examination. The second one is mediation, which involves diplomatic intervention by a third party, which may be an individual or group of individuals. Then the third one is negotiation. This negotiation involves harmonization of interest of the disputants. For instance, if it is a land dispute and it gets to the point of negotiation, they may say, oh, this disputed land is like 4 square meters. Why don't you take 2? And the other take 2, so that everyone goes home happy and satisfied. Then the next one is arbitration. Arbitration is done by an authority empowered to make binding judgment, applying existing norms, and acting in accordance with equity, good conscience, and merit. So arbitration is usually guided by norms. Then reconciliation. Reconciliation here is the most important aspect of conflict resolution in Igbo land, because when you resolve a conflict and there is no reconciliation, that conflict is bound to re-emanate. And that's why the Igbo traditional method, whichever angle they take it, it must land them in reconciliation. And it is the most aspect of this, of conflict resolution. It makes conflict resolution complete. And sometimes this reconciliation is done in form of ceremony between disputants. There will be a ceremony to show, look, I've forgiven you, I've accepted you, I've forgotten all that transpired between us. And a lot of things, it could be food, it could be drinks, everybody takes and goes home happily. Now, apart from the other methods, there are also extrajudicial methods of conflict resolution in Igbo traditional society. And some of those extrajudicial methods are as follows. One is oath-taking. We call it Inui. Oath-taking is a ritual practice of making the disputants and their witness prove their sincerity. When you doubt what the other is saying, you subject them to oath-taking. They take oath to justify that what I'm saying is nothing but the truth. Sometimes this oath is taken by a defendant to prove his innocence, or by an accuser to prove the sincerity of his or her accusation. And this oath takes a certain time frame, whereby if you are under oath, that is, if you have taken oath for some reasons, it could be 3 months, 6 months, and highest 1 year. Because it is believed in Igbo society that when you take oath and you're not honest in what you're saying, something mysterious may happen to you, which may be you may die, or you are inflicted by one sickness or the other, and some other ill actions that may befall you. And when you last for, like, depending on the type of oath you are under, when you stay like if it's for 6 months and that 6 months elapses and nothing happens, that proves you innocent. If it's for 1 year and that 1 year passes and nothing happens, that proves you innocent. And Culturally, at the end of this period of oath, if nothing happens, the person is free to celebrate his or her innocence. But if anything tragic happens to the person, then it goes a long way to prove that that person is guilty of false accusation or guilty as accused, as the case may be. Then the next one is covenant, that is Igbando. Covenant is an integral part of the judicial system employed to effect genuine reconciliation. Covenant is sometimes taken between two individuals or two communities. And the essence of this covenant is to make sure you have forgiven and you have forgotten. That you won't, after the conflict resolution, nobody plans any evil against the other person after reconciliation, after the conflict is being resolved. And when you take that covenant, you are simply saying, look, I've put everything behind me. I will not harm you in any way, neither will I hold anything against you. And this covenant is taken for several reasons. I won't, because of time, won't go into the objects. Covenant is not taken in the open air. It's being taken with it could be, some objects are being used to administer covenant, which may be kola nut, palm wine, hot drinks, and all that. And both parties, the disputants, will drink from it or eat from it together, showing that, look, I will not do anything to harm you, and neither will you do anything to harm me. It's usually administered in the presence of an oracle, administered by the mouthpiece of the oracle. And in Igbo tradition, once you are in a covenant, it is expected that you play by the rule. In other words, you don't go to violate the covenant. Then the other one is right of purification or appeasement. This is done whenever in a conflict, any of the disputants committed an offense which is regarded as an offense against the gods. Such offenses are called taboos, and insult in Igbo dialect. Some of the offenses regarded as taboos include murder, incest, stealing of sacred things, and so on. The process of purification / appeasement may involve killing of an animal or sprinkling of the blood of the killed animal on the offender. That means that the animal killed has taken away your guilt. You have been purified. Otherwise, such a person remains, in some cases, such a person may be ostracized. That means you don't have any communication or dealings with other members of the family until you are purified, because the offense the person committed is a taboo. Then divination. Divination is the traditional, in Igbo traditional society, it's being relied on heavily, especially where the truth is involved, where you cannot ascertain the truth of what both parties are saying. In Igbo traditional society, you consult the oracle or the diviner to ascertain who is actually telling the truth. Or when something, if it's a piece of land or something is in question, both of them are claiming ownership. The diviner determines who owns it. So that's about the extrajudicial methods of conflict resolution. Now we look at the advantages of Igbo traditional methods of conflict resolution. The Igbo traditional methods of conflict resolution has many advantages over the Western method of litigation, and they are as follows. One is strive to get to the truth. You see, in Igbo traditional method of conflict resolution, they don't base on superiority of argument as is done in the law court. They base their judgment on the truth. They try to get to the root and know the truth. They don't pay much attention to superiority of arguments. Then secondly, it gets to the root cause of the conflict. This is made possible by the use of arbitration and adjudication. 3, genuine reconciliation of disputants is made possible by negotiation and covenant. And let me talk a little on the genuine reconciliation. Once conflict is being resolved in Igbo traditional method, you see the satisfaction in both disputants. They go home happy, they begin to interact with each other. They try to forgive each other because it's been handled. One, the truth must be verified. They will apportion blame, and also a covenant will be administered. Unlike the Western method of litigation, you may win in court, get your compensation and all that, but both of you go home grudgingly. The fact that the court case has ended has not really ended the problem, because they didn't emphasize on proper reconciliation. Then also, preservation of lives, property, harmony, and peace. That's the main objective of the Igbo traditional method of conflict resolution. It provides the opportunity to interact with the disputants through arbitration. In Igbo traditional method of conflict resolution, everybody will be given fair hearing. You tell your own side of the story, I tell mine. Then the arbitrators or the mediators will weigh both stories and also apply other extrajudicial methods to ascertain the truth. It also offered great prospects for peaceful coexistence and harmonious relationship in post-conflict periods by the use of mediation, negotiation, and reconciliation. Now, post-conflict period is very, very important in Igbo traditional society. After the conflict resolution, what happens next? Have we really forgotten? Have we really made up? Are we ready to integrate each other? So they do not take the post-conflict period for granted. They must nurture the peace they established until it is fully established. Then it helps, 7, it helps to eliminate deep-rooted hatred. This can be made possible by the covenants. The covenant compels the disputants to do away with the deep-rooted hatred. Once you are in a covenant, look, I'm not going to hurt you, I will not do this, I will not do this. The covenant is binding. And as an Igbo man or woman, once you are under covenant, you don't go against that, no matter how bitter you are. You have no option than to try your best to forget and forgive. Then lastly, it promotes trusted intimacy and fosters reconciliation by the use of oath and covenants. That oath and covenant makes the people to get intimate again and begin to trust another. When you are oath or under covenant, you have nothing to fear from your the other disputant, because the oath and covenant covers and guarantees that no further harm will be done. In conclusion, although the Igbo traditional method of conflict resolution have been badly adulterated and in some cases replaced by police actions, military operations, and endless court proceedings, this notwithstanding, the Igbo traditional method of conflict resolution is still more efficient and timely than the modern litigation, as many long-standing cases in court are being taken home to be settled in the traditional method. So this is because the Igbo justice system are premised on the important value of reconciliation and peacemaking. It is not necessarily based on approach of the hardcore retribution, no. Retribution is not the main objective of the Igbo traditional method of conflict resolution. They do not lay more emphasis on retribution. Also, the Igbo traditional method of resolving conflict were geared towards restoring peace and not necessarily in punishing the offender. They are not interested in punishing the offender. They are more interested in restoring peace. The people appear to have more confidence in traditional method of conflict resolution than the modern method of conflict resolution characterized by litigation, because the traditional method insists on the truth rather than superiority of argument, as is the case in modern method of conflict resolution. In its judgment, the main target of the traditional method of conflict resolution is peace and reconciliation, and not compensation and punishment, which unfortunately is the target of the modern method of conflict resolution. Now let me quote Mezie Okoye. He rightly pointed out that even with modernization, these traditional institutions of conflict resolution still hold sway, keeping the heart of the society in harmony, in as much as modern adjudication system is being practiced. Traditional method of resolving conflict are still alive in our communities. In other words, colonization, civilization, modernization, and Christianity cannot replace the Igbo traditional method of conflict resolution. It is still very useful and functional to the Igbo society. This is because its quest for truth, preventive potency, and reconciliatory values made it very unique, more result-oriented, and desirable by the traditional Igbo society. Thank you for listening.